My name is Alex. I own a commercial shipping and logistics company. That basically means I move big, heavy things for a living. I deal with cranes, trucks, and massive steel containers every single day. 5 years ago, I bought my dream house on the edge of town. I didn't buy it because it was fancy. I bought it for one specific reason: privacy. The best feature of my property was the backyard. Along the back fence, there was a dense row of cypress hedges. These trees were beautiful. They were 20 years old, 15 feet tall, and thick enough that you couldn't see through them. They created a perfect green wall between my yard and the house on the hill behind me. I love those trees. I could sit on my patio, drink my coffee, and feel like I was alone in the world. Then, Linda moved in. Linda bought the house directly behind mine. Her property sat higher up on the hill. Linda was a retired real estate agent, and unfortunately for everyone in the neighborhood, she quickly got herself elected as the HOA president. Linda was obsessed with two things: her property value and her view. From her second-story balcony, she had a partial view of the lake and the mountains. But because of my 15-foot hedges, she couldn't see the whole lake. She was convinced that if my trees were gone, she would have a panoramic million-dollar view. She believed that view would increase her home's value by at least $200,000. It started with polite comments. Linda would catch me getting my mail. "Alex," she would say with a fake smile, "those bushes in your back are looking a little overgrown. Don't you think it's time to trim them? Maybe cut them down to, 3 feet." "No thanks, Linda," I would reply. "I like the privacy. I don't want you looking into my kitchen while I cook dinner." Then the comments turned into demands. She sent me official HOA letters claiming my trees were a fire hazard. They weren't, or that they were harboring pests. They weren't. "Alex," she told me one day, pointing a finger in my face, "you're being selfish. You are blocking the natural beauty of the neighborhood. It's an eyesore." "Linda," I said firmly, "they're on my property. They're healthy, and they're staying right where they are." She glared at me. "We'll see about that." I should have known she was planning something. Last week, I had to leave town for a 3-day business conference. I packed my bags, locked my house, and drove my truck to the airport. Linda must have been watching from her window. She saw me leave. She knew the house was empty. This was her chance. When I returned home 3 days later, I was exhausted. I just wanted to relax in my private backyard. I walked through my back door, coffee in hand, and dropped my mug. Smash! My stomach turned upside down. My backyard looked like a war zone. My beautiful 20-year-old cypress hedges were gone. All of them. They hadn't just been trimmed. They had been hacked down to the stumps. The branches were piled up messy on the side of the yard. The barrier was gone. My yard was now completely exposed. I could see straight into Linda's living room, and she could see me. I looked up. Linda was standing on her balcony, holding a glass of white wine. She was leaning on the railing, admiring her new, unobstructed view of the lake and the mountains. I saw red. I stormed over to the fence and yelled up at her. "Linda, what did you do? You trespassed on my property. You destroyed my trees." She looked down at me and smirked. She took a slow sip of her wine. "Oh, hello, Alex," she said calmly. "I didn't trespass. I hired a professional crew. I used the HOA Beautification Fund to remove a neighborhood eyesore. It was for the greater good. You had no right." I screamed. "Those were my trees." "What's done is done, Alex," she laughed. "Besides, look at that view. It's breathtaking. My house is worth so much more now. You should thank me. And don't bother suing. Trees grow back eventually." She turned around and walked back inside, sliding her glass door shut. She thought she had won. She thought I would just cry about it, plant some new baby trees, and wait 20 years for them to grow back. She forgot one important detail. I own a logistics company, and I have access to things that are much bigger and much uglier than trees. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my computer, reading the city zoning ordinances and the HOA bylaws. I was looking for a weapon. I read about fences. Max height 6 feet. That wouldn't work. I read about planting new trees. Takes too long. Then, at 3 a.m., I found it. Section 42B, Noise Abatement. The law stated, if a residential property is subject to noise pollution or a sudden loss of privacy due to the removal of natural barriers, the homeowner is permitted to erect a sound barrier wall to restore privacy. This structure may be up to 30 feet in height. I read it again. 30 feet. I checked the fine print. It specified the height limit. It specified the distance from the property line. But here is the beautiful part. It did not specify the material. It didn't say the wall had to be made of wood. It didn't say brick. It didn't say stone. It just said solid structure. A wicked idea formed in my mind. I drove to my shipping yard the next morning. I went to the graveyard section. This is where we keep the old, decommissioned shipping containers. These are containers that are too rusty, too dented, or too ugly to be used for shipping cargo anymore. We usually sell them for scrap metal. But today they had a new purpose. I walked through the rows of metal giants until I found the perfect three. Container number 1. A 40-foot-long container painted a faded, peeling industrial blue. It was covered in ugly graffiti. Container number 2. A bright orange one, but half of it was covered in deep, flaky brown rust. Container number 3. A dark red container with a massive, jagged dent in the side from a forklift accident. They were hideous. They were huge. And to me, they were beautiful. I called my foreman. "Get the heavy lift crane ready," I said, "and load these 3 onto the flatbeds. We have a delivery to make." Saturday morning, 6 a.m. The sun was just beginning to rise over the mountains, the same mountains Linda loved to look at. The neighborhood was silent. Linda was probably asleep in her expensive bed, dreaming about her property value. Then came the rumble. Vroom! 3 massive flatbed trucks rolled down the street, carrying my weapons of mass destruction. Behind them was a massive mobile construction crane. I directed them to the access road behind my house. It was tight, but my drivers are pros. We set up the crane stabilizers. I signaled the operator. "Let's build a wall." The engine roared to life. The first container, the rusty red one with the dent, was lifted into the air. It swung over my fence line, casting a giant shadow. We lowered it gently but firmly right onto the edge of my property line, exactly where the hedge stumps were. Clang! The ground shook as the steel settled. The noise woke Linda up. Her patio door flew open. She ran out in her silk bathrobe, hair messy, looking confused. "What is that noise?" she screamed. "What is going on?" Then she looked up and up. The first container blocked her ground floor view completely. But I wasn't done. "Keep going," I yelled to the operator. The second container, the graffiti-covered blue one, rose into the sky. We stacked it directly on top of the first one. We locked it in place with heavy-duty steel twist locks. The wall was now 18 feet high. "Stop!" Linda shrieked. Her face went pale. "You can't do this. That is garbage. That is a dumpster." I climbed up the ladder to the top of the first container. I looked down at her. "Good morning, Linda," I shouted cheerfully. "Since you removed my natural privacy barrier, I am legally allowed to build a sound wall. Do you like it?" "It's hideous," she screamed. "Take it down immediately." "I think it has industrial charm," I replied. "Bring in number 3. The crane lifted the final container, the rusty orange one. It hovered in the air like a giant metal cloud, blocking the sun. We placed it on the very top. Thud! The structure now stood nearly 27 feet high. It towered over her property. It completely blocked the sun from her backyard. It obliterated her view of the lake, the mountains, and the sky. All she could see out of her master bedroom window was a wall of dented, rotting, graffiti-covered steel. By 8 a.m., my backyard was crowded. Linda had called everyone. There were 2 police officers, a fire marshal, and a city code enforcement inspector. Linda was sobbing hysterically, pointing at the wall. "Officer, look at this," she cried. "He turned his yard into a junkyard just to spite me. You have to make him move it. My property value is ruined." The city inspector was a serious man with a clipboard. He looked stern. He walked up to the wall of containers. He tapped the rusty metal. He measured the height with a laser tool. He checked the distance from the property line. Then he turned to me. "Do you have a permit for this?" he asked. I smiled. "I sure do." I handed him a folder. Inside was the printed copy of Zoning Law Section 42B and my stamped engineering permit for a gravity-based sound wall. The inspector read the law. He looked at the permit. He looked at Linda. He looked back at the massive wall of rust. He sighed. He tried to hide a smile. "Ma'am, The inspector said to Linda. According to City Code Section 42B, because his privacy was compromised, he is allowed to build a barrier up to 30 feet high. These containers are structurally sound, locked together, and sit entirely on his property. But it's ugly, Linda wailed. It blocks my view. You don't own the view, ma'am, the inspector said. There is no HOA bylaw regarding container architecture because, well, nobody ever thought someone would do this. It's legal. There is nothing I can do. Linda collapsed onto her patio furniture. She stared at the rusty orange metal blocking her world. She realized she had played a game she couldn't win. The fallout was immediate and beautiful. The following week, a real estate appraiser came to Linda's house to reassess her property taxes, something she had requested before this happened, hoping to brag about her value. When he walked into her backyard, he didn't see a $1 million view of the mountains. He saw a 30-foot wall of industrial scrap metal. He estimated that her property value had dropped by $200,000 overnight. The other neighbors, who were tired of Linda's bullying, thought it was hilarious. They held an emergency meeting and voted to remove her as HOA president for gross incompetence and causing neighborhood conflict. As for the containers, they're still there. I'm actually thinking about hiring a local artist to paint a beautiful mural on my side, maybe a nice beach scene. But on Linda's side, I'm leaving it rusty. I want her to stare at that peeling orange paint every single day. Sometimes the best view in the world isn't a mountain or a lake. Sometimes the best view is simply the sight of justice being served. Linda learned a valuable lesson. When you destroy someone's peace, be careful. They might just build a monument to your stupidity. If you loved this shipping container revenge story, smash that like button and make sure to subscribe, because in the next video, I'm exposing a neighbor who tried to sue me for grilling burgers in my own backyard.